Yes, I'm using footage from NBA 2K24. 2K25 is ass. I'm not selling my soul for that. If you have a problem with that, or and a problem with gameplay videos or whatever, take it up with the mayor. Now, anyways, now this offseason has been just absolutely crazy to start off. The first week is always crazy when it comes to the NBA offseason because there's a lot of moving parts. I personally have not had time to make an offseason video because work has been kind of my crutch lately. But now that I have time to do something tonight, I'm going to be going through the off-season moves. Obviously, as y'all see in the thumbnail, I'm going to go through them one by one. So let's start off with this. The Dallas Mavericks get D'Angelo Russell. I personally like the move because it gives them a backup point guard for Kyrie because Kyrie plans on coming back in the middle of the season. D'Lo gives them another guard off the bench, and I think he's better than Spencer Dinwiddie, especially with his role. I think as the sixth man, D'Lo can do what he did. Because remember, JJ Redick I think it was either JJ Redick or Darvin Ham, but one of the two, they put him in a six-man role for during D'Lo's Laker tenure when it felt like D'Lo and Reeves were going to be in a backcourt that was going to get attacked defensively. Yeah, I think it was JJ. JJ made the move to put in Max Christie as the starting shooting guard, and D'Lo became the sixth man. That is until D'Lo got traded back to Brooklyn. Here, it's going to be essentially the same thing, but he's surrounded by a lot better players than Austin Reeves, and obviously he'll be next to Max Christie and Anthony Davis again. Now let's move on to the Denver Nuggets, because even though neither of the players are on the thumbnail, the Denver Nuggets bench is freaking loaded. Obviously, they traded Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson has always been a good shooter and a pretty solid defender. I saw him in a lot of big playoff games with the Phoenix Suns. There were times during that 2021 playoff run and a bit of 2022 where Cam was their second best player, right next to Devin Booker. And obviously throughout this past playoff run, you obviously saw the decline in Michael Porter Jr.'s production, right? The guy went from averaging 18.2 to 9.1, which I ain't never seen something like that, bro. Like you literally average half of your averages from the regular season and the playoffs. And obviously Mikey Porter was battling a shoulder injury, so that didn't really help him. But even before that, Michael Porter Jr. was never all that consistent. Yes, he was an 18-point per game scorer, but his volume of efficiency has never been all that great. Okay, let me redact that because I'm looking at his stats now. The worst he shot is 20.8%, but that was in the 9 games he played in the 2021-22 season. Outside of that, Mikey Porter has been a career 40% from 3, but the problem is the volume of attempts he gets. And this past postseason, he only shot 39% from the field, 34% from 3, which is a drop up to what he averaged this year. And if you look at the attempts that Michael Porter Jr. has had the last 3 seasons or so, even the season they won the championship, Mikey Porter shot 7 threes a game in the year they won the championship, 7 threes a game they got eliminated by the Minnesota T-Wolves in 2024, and then this past year, 6 attempts a game. So I'm not saying Mikey Porter Jr. is a bad shooter, but the problem is his lack of consistency. Whereas Cam Johnson, I think he's a little bit better when it comes to efficiency and consistency than a Mikey Porter Jr. Stat-wise, Mikey Porter clears Cam, but Cam Johnson is a better shooter, and I think he's a better fit next to Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Initially, and I'll put this trade up for y'all, where I think the Nuggets should make this trade or make this signing, where I had the Nuggets signing Chris Middleton and doing a sign and trade using Michael Porter Jr.'s contract to the Washington Wizards. So if y'all see on my screen, I had the Wizards game, Michael Porter Jr. and Mark Williams. Obviously, that's off the table because Mark is on the Suns. The Nuggets would get Rashawn Holmes, Josh Okogie, Saddiq Bey, and then the signing of Chris Middleton. Okogie and Saddiq will be their backup pieces. Saddiq Bey can obviously do the things that Tim Hardaway Jr. and Bruce Brown can do. I think Saddiq Bey is that good of a player. I saw him play with Atlanta, especially in that one year that they made the playoffs. Josh Okogie's always been a high energy guy, a very good defender. He's a lower tier Bruce Brown when it comes to defense. And Middleton can also take ball handling, duty pressure off of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic as well, because I saw him do it next to Drew Holiday and Giannis Antetokounmpo the year they won the championship in 2021. Obviously, a little bit of 2022. He would have made a world of difference had he not gotten hurt in, I think it was the first round against the Bulls. Obviously, his sprained ACL caused him to be out for the whole entire playoff run. 2023 was a crap show. 2024, he was really good. And then 2025, they shipped him off to Washington. And obviously, Middleton picked up his player option. Saddiq Bey is now on the New Orleans Pelicans. But regardless, I like the move that they made because not only they get Cam Johnson, they re-signed Bruce Brown, they signed Tim Hardaway Jr., who is a very very streaky shooter. I think he's literally the Michael Porter Jr. equivalent, meaning he'll attempt all these threes. He'll have a game where he makes 8 threes, and then and then another game after he'll make 2 out of 10 threes. So but the best part about it is Tim will come off the bench, and Jonas Valanciunas will be Nikola Jokic's backup. So that Denver Nugget bench is loaded. And I think they are ready to make some noise. The Denver Nuggets are back. Now let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks for a little bit, because just like the Denver Nuggets, I do believe that the Atlanta Hawks are quietly winning the offseason as well. So what are the moves they made? Obviously, a couple weeks ago, or I think less than 2 weeks ago, actually, I made a video talking about the Celtics trading Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps went to the Hawks, and then George Niang goes to the Celtics, and then Terrence Mann goes to the Brooklyn Nets. But not only that, they got Luke Kennard and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Obviously, Luke Kennard, former Clipper. I saw him in a lot of big playoff games next to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, whereas sometimes he was one of their best shooters on the floor outside of Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris Sr. Great floor spacer and a great compliment to the Atlanta Hawk bench. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has always been a dog of a defender. I loved when Minnesota got him because he could be their defensive outlet off the bench, takes a lot of pressure off of guys like Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, and obviously he can be the backup point guard to Mike Conley, and then this past year Dante DiVincenzo. I love this sign for Atlanta because it gives Trae Young time to rest on the bench for defensive purposes. So in a defensive scenario, it'll be Nickeil, Dyson Daniels, who's a dog of a defender, Jalen Johnson, Kristaps Porzingis, Mo Gay. You can rotate, and then or Onyeka Okongwu, depends, and Zachary Risache, who was their first overall pick in 2024. So I love this sign because it gives the Atlanta Hawks length. It gives the Atlanta Hawks a lot of versatility. I think with a Trae Young led roster, and it's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted the Magic to get him and Anthony Davis, and obviously that was before the Desmond Bane trade. I never talked about it, but I really wanted the Orlando Magic to pull the trigger on a Trae Young and an Anthony Davis trade. I don't know how they were going to get it done, but I wanted the Magic to do that because I feel like it would make the Magic contenders. Not saying they're not contenders with Desmond Bane, because they certainly are, but I feel like Trae and AD would have done a lot of great work with Paolo Banchero, and I think it'll be the better compliments to him better compliments to Paolo in my opinion. But one of the reasons why I wanted Trae on that team was because the Orlando Magic have a lot of length and a lot of dogs on defense. Now, on this particular Atlanta Hawk team, he has that. He has a champion in Kristaps Porzingis. He has a lot of length to surround him. So it's so easy to hide Trae and his defensive deficiencies. And I think that was one of my main issues with the Lakers, as I was talking about in my previous vid, and I'll get to them probably in tomorrow's video where I talk about them signing DeAndre Ayton. I'll touch on it a little bit before I end the video. But the thing about Luka and why he was so successful with Dallas with Kyrie Irving is that he has a lot of lengthy defenders, and Kyrie was not really a slouch on defense. That was the point I was trying to make. I think here is a little different because Trae is short, so he really can't help the fact that, he's not good on defense, not because he doesn't try, but it's because his height doesn't really allow him to be good on defense. And that's one of the reasons why a team like the New York Knicks were really good this year, because you surround Jalen Brunson with length and dogs of defenders, and OG and Mikal Bridges. Karl-Anthony Towns definitely knew how to hold his own for a good amount of the playoffs until freaking Miles Turner outplayed him. And then you have Josh Hart, and then you have DeLon Wright coming off the bench. So Trae has the type of roster that Jalen Brunson has with the New York Knicks right now, which it allows Trae to still be the scorer he is. But when you need to give him breaks on defense, you definitely have outlets of players off your bench and in the starting lineup that could take pressure off of Trae. And because of the moves they made, and then the growth of guys like Dyson Daniels, and the growth of guys like Zach Risache and Mohamed Gay and Jalen Johnson, I feel like the Atlanta Hawks have emerged as a dark horse contender and a potential finals contender. Conference finals contender, I should say. Maybe not finals contender, but conference finals contender. But let's move on to another team that could be considered a dark horse in the East, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, this one was the most insane, how do you say it, transaction that I've ever seen. So, obviously, Milwaukee re-signed Bobby Portis. They lost Brook Lopez to free agency to the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers get, let me touch on that a little bit. The LA Clippers get a good, solid backup big who could really back up Zubats, and anytime Zubats is in foul trouble, and if they want to, they could also play the double big lineup to counter, let's say, an OKC, OKC's lineup with Chet and Hartenstein, even though Chet's a little more quick-footed than the combination of Lopez and Zubats. So I do like the sign for the Clippers, but the most important thing is they re-signed Gary Trent Jr. and Bobby Portis, two of Milwaukee's arguably most important players when Dame was 100% in the playoffs. Obviously, Gary Trent had that really crappy turnover to end Game 5 in the Pacers series, but Gary Trent Jr. had a really great game, and he showed why the Milwaukee Bucks signed him, and they had a lot of faith in him to be that complementary piece next to Dame Lillard and Giannis, right? So you re-sign him. You get Bobby Portis back, who, my man All Pro Sports Talk said, he is a tone setter on both ends of the floor. Bobby Portis is that energizing spark off the bench. But in a stunning turn of moves, and play on to this dude's name, the Milwaukee Bucks signed they lured Miles Turner away from the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers couldn't give Miles Turner the money he wanted. Miles Turner gets a 4-year, $107 million deal from the Milwaukee Bucks, and they had to waive Dame Lillard as a result of getting Miles Turner. Now, here's the thing about the Bucks. I am sort of confuzzled, if is that a real word, confuzzled? But I'm a little puzzled by this move because, obviously, why did you give up all your first-round picks, not only for Drew Holiday, but you give up those first-round picks to get Dame Lillard? But I don't think it was that great of a fit anyway, because obviously Drew was proven to be the better fit. Dame is a great offensive player, and I thought, there was some untapped potential between Dame and Giannis. And like I said in my series recap vid, when I was covering the Bucks Pacers series, when I did my two-parter about them, the Bucks and the Magic, I said we'll never know what a fully healthy playoff run between Dame and Giannis would look like. In a perfect world, Dame and Giannis would average 30 apiece, or Giannis would average 30, Dame would average 25. They make it to the conference finals and let the chips fall where they may be. But unfortunately, that never happened, and they waived Dame Lillard as a result, and they still have to pay him too, which is the crazy part, bro. And the reason this could also be good is because Dame Lillard tore his Achilles, and obviously he's getting older, and I don't think he would be the same player. The saving grace about guys like Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton is that they're still young enough to have solid careers. Obviously, an Achilles injury is no joke because not many players have recovered from that, right? So the Milwaukee Bucks felt like, you know what, Dame Lillard is dead weight, and he would only cripple our cap space. And obviously, them releasing Connaughton and Brook Lopez was also a cap saving move. So it gave him the cap flexibility to sign decent free agents. And I think Miles Turner, he's a better version of Brook Lopez. Obviously, he's younger, he's more athletic. I think he can complement Giannis in terms of just a dog of a front court. They're not going to be, I don't think they'll be the best front court in the league, but they would definitely be formidable and dangerous. Obviously, I was pissed that I said in my series recap vid covering the Pacers and Thunder after that Game 7. I think I touched on it a little bit, or one of the episodes, where Miles Turner was really starting to irritate me because, dude, you are 6'11", and the best you could do is 4.5 rebounds in a final series. But And that's my kind of, and ironically, that's my pet peeve about DeAndre Ayton. But just like DeAndre Ayton, I'll touch on it tomorrow. I'm going to have some faith that it'll work out. I think I'll have some faith it'll work out between Turner and Giannis. Now, whether if Giannis stays or not remains to be seen. Because there were also reports that Giannis was not happy that the front office waived Dame Lillard entirely. But obviously, there hasn't been any rumors nor traction that, Giannis is indicating that he's going to move. Now it's just all speculation at that point, right? So obviously, the Miles Turner move was very mind blowing. But now I think about it, I see why they did it, because to build a team around a guy like Giannis, you need to surround him with athleticism and length, right? Turner provides that. Gary Trent Jr. is pretty athletic himself, even though he's not much of a dunker. He's more of a shooter, but he's a solid shot creator himself. Bobby Portis gives you energy off the bench. Now, all the Milwaukee Bucks need is a decent point guard. Right now, they don't have that. All they have is Kevin Porter Jr. to be Milwaukee's starting point guard, which obviously we saw what happens when Kevin Porter Jr. is a starting point guard or the main point guard that plays big minutes in the playoffs. We saw what happened. Now, as far as the Pacers side of things go, Brian Windhorst did say on ESPN that if I'm the Pacers, I should be angry at this move because of the fact that, why did you move him to a team that we have beaten in the playoffs 2 years in a row? We hate that team. You know there's some bad blood between Dame and Hallie. Obviously, both are going to be out next year because of an Achilles tear. But the thing about it is, and I see a lot of Pacer fans in the comments, I'm starting to agree with some of them that it was going to be time that Turner needed to go because Turner's production, just like similar to DeAndre, and again I'll touch on it tomorrow, it wasn't really all that consistent. But I think also um, the Pacers were going to hit the luxury tax, and I think because of Tyrese Halliburton's injury that he sustained in Game 7 of the Finals, it was going to hurt him even more. So I think them letting go of Miles Turner allows the Indiana Pacers to not to get under the second apron, because had they kept Turner and they still had Hallie and all that other stuff, they would be in the second apron and they would pretty much have no cap flexibility. So from an Indiana Pacers standpoint, I know it sucks because he has been the fan favorite for so long. He's been with that team for 10 years. Up until this point, him and Devin Booker were the only two guys left on their drafted team. Obviously, that was the time where Karl Towns got traded to the Knicks. But as of right now, I kind of see why Indiana did it. But the problem with Indiana is that who are you going to have as your starting center next year? Are you going to have Thomas Bryant? Or are you going to have Tony Bradley as your starting center? Like, I don't know who you're going to replace him with. So I personally like it for Milwaukee, but I don't really love it. I don't love it for Indiana either because you lose your franchise center that complemented Tyrese Halliburton and the offense. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he won't be there next year. Now, let me talk about the New York Knicks. And yes, I'm playing them in 2K24. Again, any more problems with that? Argue with the mayor. But they signed Jordan Clarkson. They signed Gershon Yabusele. Obviously, those two are very big bench pieces to have, because one of New York's issues when Jalen Brunson got on the bench, was they had no bench outside of Deuce McBride. They had no bench outside of, I guess, who else? Mitch Robinson when he came in. And then later on in the playoffs, Josh Hart. Now you have guys like Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele, two guys that can really take pressure off of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, because when either or get on the bench or both, obviously their offense was going to go to SHIT. With Jordan Clarkson, he's an instant offensive spark. He'll go back to the six. He'll be a pure six man again, because I feel like with Utah, when Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell made their way off the team, Jordan Clarkson still came off the bench, but it just felt like there were times it's like he was their tank commander half the time, because of the fact that there were times where it felt like he was the leading scorer of the team. Obviously, I don't watch too much Jazz games. My bad, y'all. But he can be a pure six man again, especially now that he has a boatload of talent in the starting lineup with Brunson, Towns, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges. And obviously you have Josh Hart and Mitch Robinson and yada, yada, yada. Deuce McBride. Gershon Yabusele, same thing. Again, he can take pressure off of Karl Towns and Mitch Robinson and Josh Hart. He's a high energy guy, plays with a lot of effort. And obviously, I may overrate him a little bit because of that one Olympic run, which allowed him back into the NBA. Now, as far as being finals contenders go, this is the year I feel like the Knicks have to get it done, because the East is wide open. No Halliburton in your way. Jason Tatum is out of your way. The Bucks are kind of like in no man's land. Your best competition would be a team like the Detroit Pistons, the Atlanta Hawks, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now that you have a guy who won head coach of the year 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and head coach Mike Brown, I feel like the Knicks, they got the pieces they needed. They got the pieces they needed off their bench that I know Mike Brown will utilize. I know he'll utilize Clarkson. He'll obviously utilize Deuce McBride. He'll obviously utilize Gershon Yabusele, and Josh Hart, should he come off the bench, he'll utilize him too. So I think with these offseason moves, The New York Knicks get better. They get a guy off the bench that can finally take pressure off of Jalen Brunson, so it won't be Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby having to handle the ball to take pressure off of Jalen. Jordan Clarkson can do that well because he did next to Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. Gershon Yabusele, he's a backup big that if Karl Towns or Mitch Robinson or Josh Hart get into foul trouble, you can easily call up his number. He'll give you effort. Maybe he ain't the best defender, that's for sure, but he'll definitely give you a whole lot of effort. And he'll give you some good three balls, and he's a decent scorer of the basketball. But now, other moves I want to cover, Dennis Schroeder going to the Kings. Obviously, he'll never beat the allegations of, him being a journeyman. What other moves are there? Trent Wofford is going to the Philadelphia 76ers. Don't know too much about him. I've seen him in a couple Nets games where he was the best player on the team. Mason Plumlee is going back to the Hornets. Pretty good signing. Tyus Jones is reuniting with Desmond Bane in Orlando. I like that. Gives them a point guard that's better than Corey Joseph to back up Jalen Suggs. Luke Cornett going to the Spurs. Cornett is a champion with Boston. Provides a lot of that experience next to De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, and then Keldon Johnson, the boys. Finney Smith and Capella going to the Rockets. The Rockets are adding on to the KD trade, which honestly I think they're starting to win the KD trade a little bit because of the moves they made after the initial trade itself. I can see why a lot of people say that the Houston Rockets lost that trade, but now because of the moves they're making after the fact, I think it made them a lot better. Obviously, I touched on Brook Lopez to the Clippers. Kevon Looney going to the Pelicans. I don't know how that's going to turn out because Zion cannot stay healthy, but he's reunited with Jordan Poole. And then Ty Jerome going to the Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, Scottie Pippen Jr. is more than likely going to get the starting nod. Ty will probably come off the bench next to either KCP or or maybe Scottie Pippen could come off the bench. It depends on if KCP starts or not, because I know Jalen Wells will be in the starting lineup. But if anything, it'll be Ja, Scottie Pippen Jr., Jalen Wells, and then you have KCP and Ty Jerome off the bench. Memphis's bench got a little better, and shout out to Ty Jerome for having the year he did. So yeah, I said a whole mouthful, and this is no longer than all my series recap vids. I thought this was gonna be quick. I was wrong. So if you guys get bored, I don't blame you. But this is just me covering week one of the offseason. Obviously, I'm gonna do a separate video talking about the Lakers getting DeAndre Ayton. It's probably gonna be a controversial video because I know one of y'all in here told me to delete my channel because I made a point where that everyone else has been making, that if we're gonna trade Reeves, we're okay with that as long as we get something better. So shout out to that one heckler. But anyways, guys, I wanted to cover this insane week one of the NBA offseason. Obviously, there's probably going to be a whole lot more. But what's going to be the future of this channel for the offseason? Obviously, more gameplay videos. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed my gameplay video as the Joker from Mortal Kombat 11. I filmed that before. I think it was like during the times of COVID. So more gameplay videos like that coming soon. I'll make more offseason videos. I may make a video talking about why NBA players will turn their Achilles a lot more, and my personal opinion about it. They're definitely outside of the gameplay videos. It definitely ain't as long as this because I had a whole bunch of topics to talk about, bro. And obviously, I'll talk about the Detroit Pistons and what they look like next season. I didn't really get a chance because this video is already long enough as is. Obviously, they got Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, both good signings. I hope they make the trade for Klay Thompson because I think he'd fit well with this Detroit Piston team. But that, again, just like the DA video, that's another video in and of itself. But yeah, I wanted to get in and take 24 and a half minutes of y'all time, man. And so I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling about the NBA offseason and this crazy ass week one that we have had. So yeah, I'm gonna get off. Y'all have a good one, man. enjoy. How am I saying enjoy your summer? Yeah, that's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.